Okay, we are live.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another beautiful Monday here at Good Medicine Way. I am your MC for tonight. My name is Upit Daka, which means white star in the Pawnee language. You may hear my children in the background. They're all my littlest one's being very loud. So, but I'm coming to you from the ancestral homeland of the Cheyenne and Arapaho people here in El Reno, Oklahoma. So I'm coming to you from Indian Territory. Hey, um, Good Medicine Way comes to you tonight from the land of the Tewa people or the Pueblo people. It's also home to the Dene, the Apache, as well as many other tribes that now currently reside in the Sandia Mountains. Good Medicine Way comes to you from Albuquerque, New Mexico. But yeah, so we're very excited to be hearing from our dear relative Eshe Hemeo. He's my brother. He may be your nephew, maybe your uncle, hey, maybe your cousin, hey. But yes, he's going to be sharing tonight about transparency, as far as I can see. Hey, but yeah, so he's going to be sharing about individual transparency as a community building practice. So we're very excited to hear from our brother tonight, and I'm gonna go ahead and hand this on over to the people in house tonight for the opening prayer, opening or directional prayer. So I'm gonna go ahead and hand this on over to Brian and Uncle Casey and everybody that is there, and go ahead and take it away.
All right, so we're going to do a little bit something different in that we're going to read the opening prayer all together. So in house, it's the a prayer of Black Elk that was there on your chair, and then for all you online, I will get the words up on the screen, and then we can read through it together. All right, here we go. Hey, learn to hear my feeble voice at the center of the sacred hoop. You have said that I should make the tree to bloom. With tears running, O great spirit, my grandfather, with running eyes, I must say the tree has never bloomed. Here I stand, and the tree is withered. Again, I recall the great vision you gave me. It may be that some little root of the sacred tree still lives. Nourish it then, that it may leaf and bloom and fill with singing birds. Hear me, that the people may once again find the good road and the shielding tree. I hope, may it be so.
All right, from my relative Black Elk. That is awesome. Y'all did a great job. So thank you for that. Thank you for starting our meeting off with a heartfelt prayer. But yes. So now we're going to be going into our opening song, which according to this agenda here says Powwow 61. That's a really good song. So, in anticipation for this, I'm going to hand this over to Brian so that way we can jam out. Just kidding. All right, go ahead and take it away, Brian.
All right, let me get the words up here on the screen, and then we'll get all the other buttons pushed.
Oh, yeah.
So the parts that say vocables, I didn't write all the vocables out. So you'll just have to kind of wing that a little bit.
You all are welcome to get a rattle, or you got one? All right,
Yeah,
you're all
for sure.
set.
Yahweh, Yah, Yah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Yah, Yah, Yahweh, Yah, Way, Yah, hey, yo. Yaheo, Yahweh Yah, Yahweh Yahweh, Way Yaheo, Way Yahweh Yah, Way Yahweh Yah, Yahweh Yah, Yahweh Yahweh, Way Yaheo, Way Yahweh Yah, Way Yahweh Yah, Yahweh Yah, Yahweh Yahweh, Way Yaheo. Hear my cry, O God, listen to my prayer. From the ends of the earth I call to you when my heart is faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I, for you have been a refuge for me, and a tower of strength against the enemy, a tower of strength against the enemy. Hear my cry, O God, listen to my prayer. From the ends of the earth I call to you when my heart is faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I, for you have been a refuge for me, and a tower of strength against the enemy, a tower of strength against the enemy, a tower of strength against the enemy. And let me dwell in your tent forever. Yahweh, Yah, Yah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Yah, Yah, Yahweh, Way, Yaheo, Yahweh, Yah, Yah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Way, Yaheo, Yahweh, Yah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Way, Yaheo, Way, Yahweh, Yah, Way, Yahweh, Yah, Yahweh, Yah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Way, Yaheo, Way, Yahweh, Yah, Way, Yahweh, Yah, Yahweh, Yah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Way, Yaheo. Hear my cry, O Father, hear my prayer. Hear my cry, O Father, hear my prayer. Yahweh, Yah, Yah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Yah, Yah, Yahweh, Way, Yaheo, Yahweh, Yah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Way, Yaheo, Yahweh, Yah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Way, Yaheo, Way, Yahweh, Yah, Way, Yahweh, Yah, Yahweh, Yah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Way, Yaheo, Way, Yahweh, Yah, Way, Yahweh, Yah, Yahweh, Yah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Way, Hear my cry, oh Father, hear my prayer. Hear my cry, oh Father, hear my prayer. Hear my cry, oh Father, hear my prayer. Hear my cry, oh Father, and let me dwell in your tent forever. 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 Forever.
Nice.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all. That sounded very amazing. Just like I thought it would. Hey, we were jamming out and yeah, that was a great song selection. Thank you for that, Brian, and everyone else that is in person. You could hear all the rattles and the singing, and it was very uplifting. But yeah, all right. So we have a segment here where creator will show one of our relatives a message or a moment or just a teaching or something that creator stirs up in the spirit. And we call that the creation insights. And we'll be calling on our sister Heaven to go ahead and offer us a creation insight for this week. So whenever you're ready, Heaven, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you for letting me share. I feel like I should acknowledge that the lands that I come from were the ancestral lands of the Peoria and the Kickapoo, the Kaskaskia, the Potawatomi, the Chickasaw, and a lot of other tribes that passed through our area. So I just wanted to take the time to acknowledge the land. And I was thinking for my creation insight this week about the female humpback anglerfish. And they found one that surfaced by the Canary Islands in Spain. And it's an interesting thing. They call it the Latin name for it is like black sea monster or something. And they talk about it being a predator of the depths. And it was first found in like 1863 by this dude named James Yate Johnson or something. And he found it off Northwest Africa. But the cool thing about an anglerfish is it has like no pelvic fin, but it still swims in the dark. And it's bioluminescent, so its spine is bioluminescent. And it has an appendage that comes out from its third eye. And even in the darkness, Creator has created it so that it can find sustenance, even in the scariest places. And I was thinking about the message from Mother Earth for that anglerfish to have come alive and come to the surface. And it took all that light from like 2,000 meters in the bottom of the ocean, and it moved all the way to the top, just trying so hard to get to the sun, you know? And that happened on February 13th. And it made me think about like bacteria and the unseen world and chemical reactions and how heat changes things, you know? and how if you don't listen to the earth when it's asking you to listen, there are consequences. And it usually involves water first, and we always have to protect the water. So I was just thinking about the beauty of the anglerfish and its glowing spinal cord and the appendage that extends from their third eye to attract nourishment and sustenance, even when traversing the darkest places. And it was a reminder to me to turn on my own light and look to the sun and to trust myself and my ability to see. And they have highly attuned organs, you know, they sense changes in pressure and movement, and it's a lot to process. I don't know. I just feel like it was a reminder from Earth to the collective to lift her to the sun and to know that even when she's in darkness, she has bioluminescent capabilities and she will always provide, and we should protect her. So thank you for letting me share.
Yes, thank you, Heaven. Thank you. Yeah. It's one of my favorite things to hear from each one of our relatives, what Creator has shared with them. And it was a really good story that you just shared. So I'm very thankful that you were able to give us a little wisdom tonight. But yeah. All right. So now we're going to be going into reading the Lord's Prayer. Uncle Casey gave us a challenge a few months ago, I would say now, to see how much of it we can remember, because we remember the Lord's Prayer from the King James version, or from any other version, so well. We remember it so well, so easily. So Uncle Casey gave us the challenge to try to learn it the same way. So hopefully we've all been practicing, or have heard it enough times that we'll be able to do it without looking at the screen. Okay. So we'll go ahead and hand this on over to Brian, who will be putting the words up, and then we'll try it and see how we do. Right? All right. So go ahead and take it away, Brian.
All right.
So everybody that's been here a while, we're going to look this way.
All right. Creator sets free shows us how to pray. O great Spirit, our Father from above, we honor your name as sacred and holy. Bring your good road to us, where the beauty of your ways in the spirit world above is reflected in the earth below. Provide for us day by day the elk, the buffalo, the salmon, the corn, the squash, and the wild rice. All the things we need for each day. Release us from the things we have done wrong. In the same way, we release others who have done wrong to us. Guide us away from the things that tempt us to stray from your good road, and set us free from the evil one and his worthless ways. I hope, may it be so.
All right, all right. That was great. I took off my glasses so y'all could see my eyes were actually closed.
Hey, good job. Yeah, a few of us. Yeah, few of us closed our eyes, and I faced the other way. So yeah, getting better and better at it. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, so
Right.
let's see.
Laura,
That
Laura,
was a great challenge.
Zoe 101? Yep. Come on up. Yep.
All right, so another great segment that we have is the smoke signals and giveaway time. Our smoke signals time is like our announcements time. We get to hear, we get to share some things about what's going to be happening over the next few weeks or next few months, and we also get to share little things that are happening in our community, all of the big wonderful things
It's just my wife.
that we all join
Just my wife.
together, So So yeah, this is just our time, our smoke signals time. Back in the old days, there used to be a home fire. We would put our blanket over it to send messages up through the smoke. So in the same way here, we are going to do the same thing. We're going to take a few moments to go through some announcements and share some prayer requests and all that good stuff. So I'm going to hand this over to Uncle Casey, who will take care of our smoke signals and giveaway time. So go ahead and take it away, Uncle.
All right, thank you, Kelsey. Yeah, we got our book study that's been going on pretty regular now, and we're doing Edith and Randy Woodley's book, Elohe, Journey to Elohe, How Indigenous Values Lead Us to Harmony and Well-Being. And it's a very personal read, we're finding out. And got about 6 people that are on our book group that come on, and some can't find their days when they're busy. But we've gone through Edith's story, Randy's story, and section 5 here is titled Sweat Lodge. And I don't know, many of you, I work with an alcohol treatment program here in Albuquerque and also in Farmington, New Mexico. And I did my doctoral research on this alcohol treatment program. And one of the things is that I introduced the Sweat Lodge as part of our healing at that program called Overcomers. And they'll be kicking off again, coming here soon. They got a new location called Hope and Redemption Ranch, and it's in Kirkland, New Mexico. And they usually run 10 clients through at a time, and they're going to be starting soon. And they got a hold of me, so we'll be doing sweat lodges with them. So it'll be interesting to read Randy's section here on the Sweat Lodge and see where that happens. My wife Laura is here in house now. She's gonna be talking about a great program that we've been doing here for a couple weeks now called Sewing 101. So Laura?
Okay.
Good.
Yat Ed Anaso, which is in Navajo. Hello, everybody. I'm wanting to share a couple of announcements with you. First of all, Good Medicine Way is in partnership with the Albuquerque Public School Indian Education Program, where they reached out and asked if I would host some classes, so we call it Sewing 101, teaching high school students how to sew native garments, such as the young ladies are sewing a ribbon skirt and the young men are sewing a vest. And this is all in preparation, not only to have something that they made and they can wear basically every day, but the Albuquerque Public School Indian Education Program is hosting a Native Fashion Show, which is their 17th annual event on April 10th. So if you're in Albuquerque, come and support the students, and they're also looking for other Native fashion designers to come. And so this week, as we're approaching this week, I am in week 4 out of 4 weeks of hosting the Sewing 101 with 10 students. We have 3 parents that have been coming regularly, and I think that's amazing because they're helping their students, so there's just a lot of good parent-student interaction. And when we started this in the month of January, within the first week, I got a call from a second teacher who asked if I would host a second event after we finished the first event. So we're going to be starting the second program early March. And I have a call out, a financial call out, if anyone would like to think about this, is we do have sewing machines. It'd be great if we can purchase another one, plus the sewing machine case. And I want to also share my gratitude to those who have given, which will help us purchase an ironing board and a couple of sewing machine cases for some of the sewing machines that we already have. So that's going great, and I just think it's amazing that we can, reach out to the community in this way that just elevates love, kindness, sharing, respect with our youth. And then another announcement I have is, it's another call out. We are looking at expanding our Good Medicine Way financial management team. And we have right here, Twyla, dun, 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 she is our new financial secretary. She has joined this month, or she's in training, and I'm very grateful for that because she's going to take on some of the tasks that I've been doing. We do have a contracted bookkeeper who has been helping us along the way for about 2.5 years, but we are in need of a person to serve as a financial committee chair that's going to oversee the entire financial management operation of Good Medicine Way. I have lots of plates in the air, and I need to start giving them out to other people. So if, number one, you have skills in finance, you love finance and you love numbers, and you have a heart to help our ministry, please contact me. I am looking at closing out my time for this particular portion of my role at the end of March. So please call me. If you don't have a lot of plates in the air for yourself and you would like to help in this way, we'd certainly like you to join us, as well as join us with other gifts, talents, your heart's desire that could help our ministry in different ways. I think the table is open. There's empty chairs. There's a chair for you if you'd like to help us out. So please consider that and talk more to Casey about that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Laura. Yeah, I help out on that too. I'm the set up and tear down guy. So we got a lot going on there, and we got a great facility here at the Mesa View Church. We got a nice building over in the other side of the parking lot here where we can have a nice big room with lots of tables, lots of light, and extension cords running everywhere to make that all happen. So yeah, that's a really good program what we got going there. The other thing that's coming up here is I have a couple of trips coming up. Need your prayer on that. I've been invited to speak in Michigan at Grand Valley State University. I'll be doing a talk, kind of interesting, and I may do that talk here as well. It's titled The Anthropology of Indigenous Religion. And real interesting title, and then I kind of noted what it was going to be about. I said it's not going to be your typical talk about anthropology. We're going to be talking about syncretism, contextualization, and decolonization, and the way that the church has been ministering to Native American people in a way that has just proved itself to be a failure. And now we're looking at people wanting to learn how to better do this, especially in a country that was taken away from the Native American people. We've got a lot of barriers to reaching them, and especially here in Albuquerque, we have a big population, and what we're trying to do here is develop a good relationship here so that people trust us and be able to come to us and want to learn what we're all about. So that's coming up. So, and also part of that trip I'll be doing is going to an Indian mission that's up there in Michigan. A lot of my relatives are at that Indian mission. I'll be speaking there as part of a Ministry Awareness Sunday. So that's coming up. I'll be doing that on March 16th. And it's time for our giveaway time. Our giveaway time is a time when in the native world we usually take what you would call an offering, and we do it with the blanket that you see on the floor in front of us here, and we actually come to that blanket rather than passing a plate around and around, and so we actually come to the blanket and hold it to your heart and give it to the Lord for the ministry that we're doing here. And the best thing about giving is that we have a $75,000 matching grant. So as long as we keep adding money to our thing, everything gets doubled. And so a friend of mine in Michigan who really likes what we're doing, she over Christmas time there, she sent a $500 check, to help us out. I wrote her back and I says, thank you so much, because your 500 just became 1,000. And so she was just really happy about that. So that's what we're doing. So we'll have a song with that.
And then for all of you online, we'll be putting our digital blanket up on the screen, and that has a QR code that you can scan, and that'll take you to a PayPal interface where you can give that way. Those links are also pinned to the top of our Facebook page, so you can get to them there. And if you don't like giving online, there will also be an address on the blanket, and that will read 3301 Coors Boulevard Northwest, Suite R349, Albuquerque, New Mexico 87120. So if you'd prefer to do things through the mail, you can do it that way. And if you have non-financial ways that you would like to share with Good Medicine Way, we always welcome that. People have gifted us all kinds of things, from flutes to smudges to drums to other things. Or if you have gifts or talents that you would like to contribute, please let us know, and we would love to incorporate you. And I'll be doing a song while it's up here, a 50-year-old song. So for all you old timers in the crowd, hopefully I'll be able to sing it okay. I tried to put it in a key that was a little bit more workable. It's an old song by Bruce Cockburn, and he used to sing really high when he was young 50 years ago. So it might be a little bit of a challenge, but we'll see.
Why did he look at me when he said, "Oh"?
I'm looking at myself.
Mirror.
Yeah. Lord of the starfields, Ancient of days, universe maker, is a song in your praise. Wings of the storm cloud, beginning and end. You make my heart beat like a banner in the wind.
Hey, that was another great song. Another great song. Thank you very much, Brian. I'm always impressed by your skills with the music. It is truly a wonderful gift that you have there. But all right, I'm joined here by my little man, little Miley Spencer here. We got little Kisa girl playing over there. They wanted to say hi. All right. So now we'll be going into reading Creator's Word. And this will be coming from Acts chapter 4, verses 32 through 35, and Ephesians 4, verse 25. So that was Acts 4, 32 through 35, and Ephesians 4, 25. And we'll be handing this over to Helen, hey, to our sister, Helen Wright, who will be reading Creator's Word for us tonight. So go ahead and take it away, Helen.
Okay, thank you. So they share their possessions. With one heart and mind, all who trusted in Creator Sets Free, Jesus, shared their possessions with each other. No one claimed their belongings to be only for themselves. With the great power, the message bearers told the story of how their honored chief, Creator Sets Free, Jesus, had defeated death and returned to life. Creator's gift of great kindness was covering all of them like a warm blanket, and no one among them was in need. Those who owned houses or land sold them and brought what they had gained and gave it to the message bearers to share with everyone. Let's see. And then the next part is from Ephesians 4:25. Okay. Living in harmony. We are all members of one body, one tribe, so we must speak truth and be honest with each other, leaving the path of falsehood far behind. This is the reading of Creator's Word.
All right. Thank you, Helen. And now we'll be going into a centering and stillness time through the Native American flute that Brian will be providing for us. So this will give us a chance to calm ourselves enough to listen and absorb what Eshe has to share tonight. And yeah, after this, we'll go into a speaker introduction, which Uncle Casey will give. And then we'll have our feature presentation. So go ahead and take it away, Brian.
Ryan, got to share something that just came to my phone here just a minute ago. And, we're pretty technical around here, so we have people on Zoom texting us, Facebook Live checking in with us, even those that are on the chat here on our Zoom, they put things in the chat. But I got to share this because it's something that's happening around our country right now, and it's very disturbing what's going on. But the announcement that just came across here right now, and it's a school that we've been wanting to work with here, SIPI, and also a school in Kansas there, Haskell. Devastated and heartbroken, it says here. Federal layoffs could force Haskell and SIPI to close. So these are two Indian schools, all with Native American students that are at these schools, and they trying to make some better of themselves. And we got, we tried to minister to this school that's just down the road from us here many times, and now we have friends and relatives that are working and going to school at Haskell Indian School, and now they're on the verge of possible closures there, and so that's happening. So I just need to let you know about that so that you can be in prayer over the situations that are happening right now across the country. So to know that, but our friend here, Eshe, is going to be speaking with us today, and maybe some of his talk will relate to some of this because it's having to do with transparency and creating community. So we want to, keep that in our prayers. But Eshe is he's from South Carolina, and he graduated Bible College down there, and now he's working on a master's in counseling. And he sounds like he's going to be coming this way for the summer for some work that he's going to be doing, and we'll probably have him in person here that during that time. So he's I'll let him introduce a little bit more of himself, but I've been able to work with him in North Carolina when we were down there this past summer here, and got to meet him and his wife. And they also made a trip here and spent some time with us also here in person. So Eshe, turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Uncle. Can you all hear me well? All right, cool. Man, there's so much heavy stuff going on right now, and thank you for sharing that, Uncle Casey. There's a lot of changes going on. There's a lot going on. We need to stay in prayer. We also need to mobilize. This is the time to stand up, and band together, um, and it kind of goes like Uncle Casey was talking about with my talk tonight. I was kind of thinking about what to talk about tonight, and you know, I thought about a lot of different things to talk about, but in my experience, and I don't know how many of you can relate to this, but in my experience growing up in different religious contexts, there is a semblance of community, but there's not, people don't actually know each other on a very deep level. You might know of the person, you might know some details about them, you might even talk to them every week, every Sunday, if that was a thing or whatever it looks like. But how many of them do you really know? How many of them do you really know their ins and outs, their life history, their story? Um, and you know, that was kind of my experience. And Good Medicine Way has really been a breath of fresh air because it's given me a chance to see people be vulnerable in a safe space. It's almost like a therapy session in a way, but it's it's a therapy session, but it's we're worshiping Creator together and we're celebrating our community. We're celebrating the community of creation. And so, it's a different experience. And I'm gonna share my story, and I might get emotional because this is like the first time that I'm sharing my story in this kind of setting. So it's a really big deal for me. And I'm sharing this on the tail end of what we call in Yucatec Maya Wayeb, which is like a series of 5 days between solar cycles. You could call it the Mayan New Year, which is starting tomorrow, and you have a series of 5 days before that where you take time to basically stay home, be introspective, kind of go over the past 360 days and see, write and um, do certain practices to see where you've come over the year, and also like reflecting on that and see where you want to go from here. Um, there's many other practices that are implemented in Wayeb, like giving things away that you no longer need, asking yourself what you don't need, cleansing your space, cleansing yourself. It's a lot of really good practices to it. So a little bit about me. Um, I was actually, hang on, my timer's going off, telling me to go to bed. Which I'm not going to tonight. I'll make an exception tonight. Um, so for me, I actually grew up in the area of Hinsdale, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago, which is Uncle Casey's people. That's the Potawatomi territory. There's a few other nations that kind of overlap, but that's primarily Potawatomi territory. Um, and my mother pretty much raised me up until the age of 4 or 5. My father was present, but he wasn't really ready to be a father. So he had a lot of behavioral issues, a lot of things going on at that time. He was very abusive in more ways than one. Um, and so that was kind of my experience there. My mom didn't have a strong support network at that time. She had her and her dad had a really close relationship, but they were always, her parents were always busy, and my mom's mom, was a teacher, so she was raised to be very disciplinarian. That's what she knew. So my mom kind of found her way in a lot of ways that weren't necessarily healthy, but she was trying to find her way. And so when we came down here to get away from my biological father at the time, we came here and about 4 or 5, and we moved in with my grandmother. My grandparents had moved here like a year before from up there, and trying to remember at that time, that was a very difficult experience. I was so young, I didn't really remember too much, but for my mom, it was a very difficult experience because she didn't really get that support that she needed. And this is something she experienced ever since she was growing up. So, she felt like she never really had that nurturing that she needed. And so when we moved here and we moved in with my grandmother, it was kind of the same paradigm, but it's like, you need to go find a job. We're not going to support you. All that. And my grandfather had gotten Pick's disease, which is a neurological condition, um, which is basically kind of similar to Alzheimer's, but a little bit different. Um, so he lost basically the ability to speak, and basically be himself, like what you would, behaviorally. But so that was really hard for my mom because that was the person that she was kind of the closest to. So when she got here, she didn't really have a support network. Like a year or so into being here, she did meet this guy named Richard, and Richard is now my dad. So you can guess that was a good thing that happened, and he was um, he was a very good role model for me as a young man growing up, and he didn't let um, the fact that my mother had a child dissuade him from being in a relationship. So I really learned a lot of good values, and after a few years of being at my grandmother's house and kind of having some good and bad experiences there, we moved in with after they got married, we moved in with his parents, which is the house that I live in now, was his parents' house. So there's a lot of history for me, even in this house and in this area. But um, this was a better experience in the fact that his mom was very nurturing, very compassionate. She was actually born in Amsterdam, Holland, and spoke fluent Dutch. Um, and his dad was also of Dutch descent as well, even though they had been on Turtle Island for a few generations at that point. So I don't think he was able to speak any Dutch because of the assimilation that his family experienced. But he had been in Vietnam and had seen a lot of things, I'm sure. So there was a lot of arguments between him and my uncle, my adopted dad's brother at the dinner table a lot, and he would be very passive aggressive a lot. So that was kind of a mixed bag. And something I forgot to mention when we first moved here, we were living with my grandmother, I've always you'll see how it connects in a little bit, but when I first got here, there was a traumatic experience that my mom and I went through, and this is one of my earliest memories. Um, when I was about 3, when we were still up north, my dad, my mom, I don't remember the circumstances exactly in my mind, but they were arguing over something, and my dad, my biological dad, got in the car. My mom, um, got in the back to stop him from driving off, but he drove off anyways with her on the back of the car, um, down the road, and I was left in the middle of the road, as a 3-year-old, just seeing this, and witnessing it and crying. Um, I think eventually that's a whole nother story, but my mom got dropped off and my dad came and got me and used that as a psychological maneuver towards my mom when she came looking for me because my mom was very protective of me. So there was a lot there, but when I came here, connecting it to when I came here when we moved here, I didn't remember this. My mom told me that, or I think it was my grandmother and my mom told me that um, sometimes I would come down the stairs like, "Where's mom? Where's mom?" Because of that lack of attachment, that fear response. And there was other things that happened when we were up north and up until I was about the age of 3 or 4 that also contributed to that, other than just that one experience. Um, being raised with my grandmother, though, there was a lot of good. There was a lot of good things. I don't want to make it all sound doom and gloom because there was a lot of good um, things, a lot of good values that she passed down to me. Um, we were raised, both my mom and I were raised in a you could call it a Christian home, a very religious home, religious upbringing. Um, but in a lot of ways, it was very fundamentalist. It was a lot of fear. Um, don't be like these people. Don't do that. Don't go down that road. And it wasn't like don't go down that road because this is where it's gonna lead. It was like don't go down that road just because it's like not a good road and you're gonna, just be following evil one or the devil, or something like that. It wasn't necessarily said in those terms, but that was the kind of the mentality behind it. And very very Western fundamentalist religious approach. I grew up for those who may be familiar with Seventh-day Adventist, I grew up in the Seventh-day Adventist denomination. Um, and so that was kind of my experience. And so when we moved in with Richard's parents and we lived here for a while, I think moved here and this is right down the street from my other grandmother's house, so I could kind of go back and forth between the two places. But this is around the age of 8. I moved here and then stayed here till about the age of 12, so about 4 or 5 years. And before we moved into town. And around this time also there was I was in a Christian school. I was in a Seventh Adventist Christian school at the time, off and on throughout those years. And I didn't experience a lot of trauma in those settings. I actually had some very close relationships. Um, Around 6th grade, there was a few students that became part of that school, and they it was an all I was the only one who was not African descent person there. So that was when those students came into that space. Before that point, I was kind of accepted as I was. There was an acceptance of me. But after that point, there was a lot of bullying that happened to me, for being different. And I wasn't raised, for those who don't know, my father's side is largely indigenous background. There's also some European bloodlines there too, but a lot of indigenous bloodlines there. My mom's family is predominantly Northern European. Um, so like growing up with my mom's family, I always felt like I was at that, even growing up, I always felt like I was different, just seeing myself and something deep within me, just not even just the exterior being different than the rest of my mother's side of the family, but also internally, I felt different. I viewed the world differently, to a certain extent, and there was just that pull that I couldn't explain. And there was always, from a young age, it was always connected to the land. There was that pull to the land, and I couldn't explain it. But now it's makes sense. I'm starting to put those things together. But at that time, it was with that bullying and everything that was happening, they I don't know if you all ever played this before or if you remember this from your grade school years, but there was a game called Neck where people would like slap you on the back of your neck, like, I got you, like that. And a lot of kids have, it's innocent, they do it and everybody's fine. Sometimes I've seen it even at other schools where people take it too far. Um, but like literally at a certain period of my life around sixth grade, there'd be 12 other kids, 10 to 12 other kids, and everybody would be kind of giving me a neck, like just going on me on my neck. And by the end of that, my neck would be red and sore from that, and I'd be crying. And be mindful also, like I was still dealing, like there was around fourth grade, I started going to school and crying every single day at school because of that feeling of abandonment and that lack of attachment that I was experiencing. It was so that was a really difficult time, those certain years of my life, and dealing with that bullying when I was around 12 years old really created a huge wound in me. It really still recovering to a certain degree from all that. But, you know, I realize looking back that a lot of those people that inflicted that harm, they say it's kind of become cliche, hurt people, but it's true. When I look at those people, and I look at their parents, I look at their families, I start seeing, okay, this is where you learned it from. This is your pain, this is being redirected, it's being projected, you know. And as a matter of fact, I remember an experience where one of these young-skinned or light-skinned African descent women was a young woman was there. She was one of the ones who would bully me, as a matter of fact. And a lot of the other kids, were talking about how, like, kind of putting her with me, and like oh, like compare your skin to each other, and it's like, and just that whole paradigm of light skin versus dark skin, even within the African descent community. It's not just natives, it's colonization has really done a number on us, but it's the internalized trauma, and the internalized depression. And I have words for it now, but at the time I didn't really understand it. But after that point, um, that last couple years in that church school, it went more smooth. There was a few other like public school experiences up until like high school point. But yeah, that was that period of my life, if I'm gonna put it in summary. And from my high school years, the first couple of years, I started kind of transitioning, and I started the first in ninth grade, that first kind of few days I went, I was still like confronting my fear of abandonment and attachment anxiety of being in a space that I didn't know anybody, where this was like all brand new, in a brand new school. Granted, it was a smaller school. It wasn't like a public school with a bunch of kids. But, I had a few rough days, but the more I confronted it, and at that point, I started learning like how to breathe, how to cope, how to like kind of talk myself down. So I kind of started adapting. I started being able to like deal with my fear and my anxiety in a more productive way and not like let my head and my brain spiral out of control with anxiety. Um, so I went my grandmother at my grandmother's behest, ninth and 10th grade, my parents and her sent me to another Christian school. It was a Pentecostal based school. And that was a interesting experience, to say the least. There was some good experiences, there were some good people, but it was there was some fundamentalism there as well, looking back and some experiences, religious experiences that they had the students participate in that weren't the most comfortable, and different things, but I made it through and learned some things, but you know, went to public school for 11th and 12th grade. And it was actually at this point, around 10th and 11th grade, actually 11th grade, when I started going to Beaufort High School. And it's around the time I was 17. Actually, a few years before that, I should mention, is when I started having the identity crisis. They talk about this in psychology and counseling, that around this age is when you start having your identity crisis, you start figuring out who you are, and what you're going to bring with you into your adulthood and wrestling with different parts of yourself. And um, that's kind of when I started examining my ancestry and um, and just the different cultures and different spiritual experiences around the world. And so this is also around the time when I met Melissa for the first time. This is when we first got together around 11th grade, and so that's that transition period, man. There was a lot going on at that time, and um, you know, a lot of transformative experiences. And then let me think. This is 17, so this would have been, yeah. So around this time, we were still kind of like rooted in that kind of that religious upbringing. I was still in it, but I was kind of like wrestling with it while I was in it, if that makes any sense. I was kind of like going through it and saying, okay, like, it was good experiences, especially when I was up in near Charlotte. There was a really good community there, followers of Jesus there who were more mindful of community, and it was more open and dare I say progressive, in a way, maybe in mentality. It wasn't as legalistic and fundamentalist. Um, and then once we got married in 15, we went to at that point we went to a program called SALT, which stands for Soul Winning and Leadership Training, which was up in a university up near Tennessee. And that experience, when you're that age, you don't oftentimes put things together, but it was kind of the bridge to getting even deeper. Like at that point, I was kind of like I was naive, because I was still young. I didn't have that lived experience. And I didn't really have anyone go through that experience to kind of mentor me and kind of help me avoid certain things that may have been harmful. So we went to that, and but basically it was a Bible worker training. We went there for like 4 or 5 months, and they teach you how to be Bible workers. And we thought we would use that after we graduated. We learned some things. There's like a bunch of different classes. Can't remember them all, but it's a prophecy class and Daniel Revelation. That was really interesting. Some of those things I still keep with me, but um, Christian ethics and all kinds of stuff like that. Just for those who've been in seminary, it's, a lot of different religious classes um, over different things and seeing where you're at. So I realized that with that model, though, it was very cognitive. It was very much about belief and understanding the right things and believing the right things. And a lot of times when I'd be in community in these settings, it wasn't, I don't know. I don't know if you all probably can experience this. This is one space where I think you all can understand. It's something where something is off, but you can't put your finger on it. It's like you kind of feel okay, but like there's just something off. Like it's not fulfilling your deeper needs, and it's just one expression that isn't really expressing your heart or your being. It's just another, I don't know, it's like a different way of expressing it that isn't you, you know? So that was Salt, and after we finished Salt, we kind of wanted to go to a lifestyle center. My mom she actually had been sprayed with pesticide by a neighbor. She had been doused with just one of those, spray bottles of, I don't even know what it's called, but like Cutter, or one of those, like mosquito spray. And the neighbor thought she was doing her a favor and just doused her whole body, and she had like autoimmune symptoms for years and years and years, and really intense stuff, like to the point some nights where she thought she would be dying. Um, so she went to a lifestyle center. I say all that to say she went to a lifestyle center that was rooted in the Adventist tradition, and got a lot of help there. It was called Wildwood. It's in Georgia. And got a lot of healing, and they use like different plants and charcoal and stuff like that. So we're like, okay, that's something we like to do, learn more about natural medicines and how to help people, in that way. And you know, we ended up asking one of the professors there, because she actually was a professor at Wildwood as well, this lifestyle center. And I'd asked her like, hey, you think you could get us in Wildwood next semester? And she was like, Wildwood's all booked, but there's another one called Butler Creek Lifestyle Center up north, and just 2 hours south of Nashville. And so, yeah, okay, we'll try it out. And, Melissa and I were a couple at that point. We were a unit, and so, okay, we'll try it out. And um, we went there and stayed there for 9 months, and that was growing up in a more fundamentalist religious culture. That was fundamentalist to the core going there. It was not, there was good experiences, good people, but and a lot of people of color, oddly enough. That was the crazy thing about it. Um, but it was very colonized and very fundamentalist looking back and approach. I remember at that point I was already starting to grow my hair out. My hair was probably, if not the middle of my back, at least halfway to the middle of my back. And sometimes I'd have it braided, sometimes it would just be in a ponytail. And my sides were all grown in at that point. And I still remember one of the staff there, being like, talking about, in the next year, we're gonna make sure to put that in the paper that men can't have their hair grown out. you know, and just little microaggressions like that, always, saying something, me being me, people coming to me and saying, hey, can we go take a walk? And after a certain point of people saying that, I learned to know what that means. It means I need to rebuke you for something. Um, so it was not a very fun experience. A lot of rebuking in the name of the Lord. Um, and it really messed with my psyche really, really badly. It really there was a lot of Bible thumping. They used there's someone by the name of Ellen White that they esteem. Some unfortunately some esteem it as high as the scriptures, her writings, or higher. But they would just like they do the Bible, take little chunks and beat you over the head with it out of context. And um so it really made me like I was already kind of questioning at that point, but at that point it made me question it more. It really made me challenge my faith, and um yeah, and I remember once when we were there, there was a lot of different experiences, and if we were to share them all, it would be here for a while. But another experience I remember is near the end of our program. Melissa and I, we were, it was like I don't know, you call it camp meeting, like a gathering of different ministries coming there together who do kind of the similar thing. Um, and Melissa and I had learned a Cheyenne prayer song at that point, and there's a few groups who were singing, and um, we got up there and we sang our song of Cheyenne. We even told them what the translation was, and before that, like everybody had gotten, amens and claps, and after we sang our song, silence. Everybody just looked at us while we were walking back to our seats. And yeah, it was a lot. There was a lot there. There was a lot of trauma, a lot of pain. But in the midst of that trauma and that pain, it pushed me away, but I think that was a good thing because it showed me what not to do, you know. Um, so after those two experiences, this is around 16, right after that, we left there I think October of 16, and then November is when we went to Standing Rock. So immediately after that, we went to Standing Rock when all that was going on. We stayed there for a few weeks, and my brother Jason, who has since passed, he was there. He was he was at a camp. So for those who are familiar with Standing Rock or who have been there, who have people who have been there was Ocheti Shakoan camp, and then across the river, Ocheti Shakoan was the big camp, like where everybody went. And then across the river was the original camp, which was Sacred Stone, and a lot of the hippies moved in over there, but LaDonna, man, what was her last name? LaDonna, I can't remember the last name at the top of my head. Allard, I think. Um, she was over there. She was one of the ones that started that Sacred Stone camp. And there was a lot of rivalries between the different camps. With any movement, there's always gonna get enough people, there's gonna be problems. But oh man. So my brother Jason and a few other people started their own camp off near, for those who are familiar with that whole thing, you had that hill, where those, I don't know if you all remember, probably on the news, they had that footage where there was that river. And then those guys had, like, they were in the river and they had the tarp hanging up in front of the police. We were there during that time. That was actually like our first or second day there, and we were at the med tent at the time helping out. And when they all got back, we helped a lot of them, like with hypothermia and stuff like that. So, anyways, um, he started his own camp, and it was called they called themselves a Kijita, for those who may not familiar with what that means. It means like warrior. It's a really strong term. Yeah. Yeah, and Puridaka knows what that term means. Um, and they called themselves the agitators because they would go and disrupt the pipeline. I'm not necessarily advocating for some of the things they did, but they did the undercover stuff, and they were really proud of that. And so going there immediately after that experience at the Fundamentalist Lifestyle Center was actually really healing, because that was not only was it a community, but it was an indigenous community based off of reciprocity, and those values of reciprocity. And it was indigenous led. So that was healing, being on that land for 2 weeks. And unfortunately at the time, looking back, I wish we had kind of advocated to stay longer, but just in our mental space, we weren't at that point to be able to do that. But, you know, going forward from that, um, after that experience, I started doing the work of selling religious and spiritual books, through the Adventist Church, and did that from about 17 to 20. And around 2020, of course, is when coronavirus happened. At that time, when COVID happened, it really showed me the underbelly of the gathering, the spiritual community here in my local setting and abroad. The prejudices, the dysfunctions, uh yeah, just the dysfunction and the belief patterns that weren't healthy, and people squabbling and arguing. And I was just like, you know what? Like, this isn't healthy and this isn't doing anything. Like, we're just doing something just to say we're doing something, meeting every week, and it's actually not helping me at all. It's not helping these people at all. Like, even the people who are coming, like, it's just giving them a high, you know? So I was like, I'm gonna do my own thing. And so it was at that point, I had a few people that I knew that like there was an elder woman that I knew, and it's like we were kind of hanging out with her already, and so we kind of just took her out here once a week and just rested and spent time with her, and did a study and just gathered in community. Um and that was kind of when I stepped away from the church experience in terms of a building, in terms of that Western format. Um, and I don't think I found good medicine way until a couple years after that, but I'm glad I did. I'm so appreciative to be here. Um, but that calling, that part of me was calling me. I could see now, like, throughout my whole life, and it's gotten me to this point, and it's gotten me to Good Medicine Way. It's gotten me here. And so I say all that to say, I've come from a place of fundamentalist religion, and Creator is bringing me to a spiritual road of freedom, where I'm following Creator, where I'm following these ways, rooted in our indigeneity, in our cultural ways, while honoring Creator, become human, Creator sets free. And you know, that fear that I had growing up, it's transitioning, I should say, to courage and strength, and the community, what I was getting at in the beginning, and then I'll be quiet and let you all speak. I was getting at in the beginning, this act of being vulnerable is probably the hardest thing that a person can do, you know, um, because it brings things up, and there's things I probably am not able to talk about. Like, it's not because I'm not thinking about it, it's just like I can't process it right now. But like it would probably be too heavy. But I gave you a rough encapsulation of my life. Um, and the thing about community, what I was getting at in the beginning, is community is based off of transparency. When we're transparent with each other, and I'm not saying like you have to be like completely put everything on the line and be like, okay, this is my life story, like transparency can just mean, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be that level. It doesn't have to be what I just did. But transparency can be as simple as, hey, this is how I'm feeling, right now. This is how I'm thinking. That's how a community is built, when we're able to be on that level with one each other, and not, in my experience, growing up, until I left that 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 religious, I don't know what to call it, a religious structure, in 2020, when COVID, a lot of that was pretending. There was a lot of pretending. There was a lot of people being very fake, putting on their dress clothes. I can't judge them, but I could feel it. I could see it. When you see them one way in that setting, and you see them in a different way in another. That's it's evident. But people dress up, they do different things, they put on their presentation, they look good, they say the right things in their minds, they do the right things, and then they go about their merry way. In our way, this is something you live. This is something that you live. It's something that we live. And with Good Medicine Way, because of what our focus is, it's not just, and Uncle Casey has talked about this. Community isn't something we do once a week. It's something we do every day of the week. It's something we're part of. And the community is this, but it's also, the community is bigger. It encapsulates all of creation, you know. And so I'm interested to see what your all's perspective is, and I'll hand it back over to you guys now.
All right. So before we enter into our discussion time, our talking circle, if you will. Just kidding. Brian will give us how do I say it? Will give us a song to help us gather our thoughts. He'll be playing the Native American flute for our silent reflection and second stillness time. So go ahead and take it away, Brian. I'm gonna say, all right, Brian, take it away.
All right, the floor is open. Sure, Laura's got something. Yeah, yeah, you can grab that one if you want.
Eše, I want to call you Shiyaj. In our Navajo language, that means my son, or I call my nephews Shiyaj. And I want to express my gratitude for what you just shared this evening tonight. In that you express courage, boldness, vulnerability, but also strength. And that I want to let you know how much you are loved by us, and for you and your family and your children. And many times, there's universal teachings out there. There's 573 federally recognized tribes, and then you have state recognized tribes. But across all of the the different tribes, there's some universal teachings that go across and that touch each of us in similar ways, as well as, on the flip side, experiences that we've had that aren't as happy and joyous either. But I think it's through the sharing of our stories that bind us together. And because we're all here together, is that we could uplift and encourage and become even stronger in what our purpose is. And I sense that with what you have shared this evening is, God has a path for you, that He's making it crystal clear day by day, and that you are an emerging leader within our community, and your family is there to support you. And so any way that we can assist in that way, we want to be there to help you along. And I'm touched, and I'm grateful. And I just want to express my gratitude to you, Shiaj. Yeah.
Similarly, Eše, I talked to you earlier this week, and, for a time here, I've been calling you nephew, and you've been calling me uncle all these times. And with Laura's words, and closest I know in my language is Ngozi, is my son. So you have that heartfelt love that we want to give you as a son. Just share that with you. And next time we see you in person, we'll run you through the gauntlet, and then make you a relative. Thank you for sharing tonight.
Go ahead, Upritaka.
I was like, yeah, I put it in the chat that, yeah, you got to pass those tests. You have been upgraded to a new status. But I'm sure everyone always looks at you as a relative, as a dear relative. One of the things that I really enjoy about having Eše in my life is that he's one of the few people that I feel like I can be transparent with, and I can definitely find a shoulder, a shoulder to cry on, a shoulder to lean on. He's definitely my brother. I'm not really sure how to say that in any of my languages right now. But but I am really thankful for what you had to share tonight. In one of my classes, I'm actually learning about community through like a scientific lens, a biology. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I'll just want some more. Sorry. But being able to talk with one another, being able to share experiences together, being able to evolve and grow together, being able to weather all the storms, and how you said that there was nobody to like guide the way for you or guide the light for you. But it's amazing that you're able to hold the light for everyone. for anyone who's been in similar, not exactly the same, but similar situations. All of us carry some kind of trauma in some way. Um, and I'm just really thankful that you were able to be here and to share with us something that you've been thinking about like your entire life without even realizing it. But I'm really glad that I have you as one of my teammates. And there are a few of us here that are my teammates, and I'm very glad that I have these teammates, these people that I can call on during times that are just a little too dark or a little too heavy to carry on my own. Um, but yeah, Eshe is definitely one of those people who I can call when I'm just having one of those down days. But I'm really glad that Good Medicine Way is here. I have a lot to say about it. It's definitely something that's helped me in my spiritual journey. Not just being the person who helps with scheduling, not just being an MC occasionally or filling another role, but it's really a beautiful place to be. It's a great feeling to be around each one of us, each one of you here, you know. It's definitely family style. We definitely follow the familial style of gathering, I guess. um but I'm very thankful to be part of this community, and I'm thankful that I wanted to call you Uncle Eshe. I keep thinking Uncle Eshe because Kisa and Miles are always calling you Uncle. So Uncle Eshe here. Just kidding.
It's
Young
funny.
elder. Just kidding.
I have some people here. I was remembering at the school I'm working at. It's my son's school that he goes to, and how was it? It was like this little girl at the school, and she was like, "Yeah, I just found out my cousin is my uncle. Like they're related, and somehow." I was like, "Oh my gosh."
Eh, Indian ways, Indian ways. But I know that your story is still being written. I know that it's still, you're not towards the end. You're still on the journey, you know. But I was just kind of like the question that I have is like you shared a little bit about your experience within like the church setting, right? Um like when did you realize that that church setting wasn't really like for you, wasn't giving life to the congregation, or like because like a lot of people have heard some of my story too, but that it's just like for me when I realized that it wasn't really the place that I needed to be, um I don't know, I was kind of just thrown out, you know, like it wasn't exactly my choice that I left. It was that I was just kind of casted out, like get out of here, we don't want you. But I was just wondering, like from your own experience, like what like gave you the strength to just like walk away from it, you know, like what gave you that what gave you that strength for that?
Man, that's yeah. I think truthfully, like me feeling like I'm fitting in that space, that probably started dissipating probably about 8 years before I left. And there was always like this inkling that I was made for something more than what this was providing. Like it wasn't actually fulfilling. It was just a program, you know? Um, to me, you know. I mean, there was people I was really close to and I formed community with in that space, but it was outside that space that happened, not inside of it. Um, and so the program a lot of times would actually get in the way of that, especially with elders, people who are older than us. Yeah, a lot of the people I was in community with were those who are my age. And a lot of them are, nowhere to be found in that space either anymore, for different reasons. But, you know, and it's gonna sound awful, but I'll phrase it this way. When COVID happened, there was a lot of good and a lot of bad things that happened as a result of COVID. COVID, of course, was awful because it was COVID, and it was a pandemic, but it was also with everything that is negative also has the potential to be positive. There are positive things that came out of that. For me personally, when those structures shut down because of COVID, when everybody stopped meeting and had, because of the pandemic, it was almost like it gave me permission to do something different, to step away. And even though I was already kind of feeling it at that point. And something I did forget to mention that you reminded me about is I actually joined another group, and I've talked a little bit about this with Uncle Casey and I think Brian, um, back in 2022 or 23, somewhere in there. But that was called Lighthouse. And that was supposed to be more progressive, but a lot of the people that were involved with Lighthouse were also involved at the other group. And actually, it was on my way back from when I went to Albuquerque over the spring, this past year. On the way back is when all of that fell apart with Lighthouse, you know, um, and the leadership. I had told the pastor at that time, about a year ago now, um, myself and another person had told him, like, if you decide to go down that road, because he was talking about it, he was saying he wasn't going to do this, he wasn't going to merge with the other group that we were a part of before. But I was like, if you do that, just know this is my experience with that, and I'm not going to follow you. Like, this is how I feel. Like, I'm going to be honest with how I feel. He heard me. And on the way back from New Mexico, I just got this slew of text messages from the group, and they had already made up their mind. And in the how they have a SWOT analysis? Everybody who knows grants knows SWOT analysis. So he had a SWOT analysis form, and drawbacks, on the bottom, it said one of the drawbacks of merging with this other group was losing people in the process, and they were okay with that. And I was one of those people, of course, that he was referencing in the SWOT analysis. So So I was like, okay, you're clearly not honoring my feelings, and you all are claiming to be a trauma-informed community. You're claiming to, but clearly it's not that way, or else this wouldn't be happening. Um, so it just started showing me the underside of oh, you're good, no worries, I understand. It's the underside. I call it churchianity, because it doesn't follow Jesus very well. It follows a lot of traditions very well, but not the way of Jesus very well. And I think the way of Jesus allows for a lot of freedom and a lot of broadness within different cultural settings. And that's the beautiful thing about it. We bring all that into one space. It brings a lot of flavor and a lot of beauty in that. So to answer your question, I hope I answered your question. That's kind of what COVID kind of allowed me to, but I always kind of had that inkling because I was always different, and I always felt that pull. It was like Creator was always pulling me to something more, but there was always that fear factor too, because I didn't really know what that looked like, because at the time I didn't have a model.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, brother. That was good.
Right. And I think Twyla's got something in-house.
Yeah, not really a question, just that I appreciate how you were sharing your history, and it did stand out to me when you said you always felt a little bit different, because I think I've shared in the past, growing up in a fully Christian life, and I would not ever not have had that part of my life, because it brought me to where I was supposed to be. And everything that's going on around our world right now is very confusing, very disheartening, very upsetting. And like the scripture you had us read, verse 25 of Ephesians 4. We are all members of one body and there's only one God. When I was young, like you were, like you expressed, I too felt like I don't belong here. I'm different from my family. I'm different from all my cousins. I don't fit in anywhere, because I do believe now that it's because my eyes and my heart were truly turned toward God in heaven. And Jesus was my guide, even as a very, very young child, because of the trauma that I went through with my parents and with the lifestyle we lived. I had nowhere to go but Jesus. And I learned very young that he would always be there for me. So I too understood what you were talking about. Sometimes the confusion of where you were, why you were having this happen to you at such a young age, and then more and more and more kept coming in on you. But I know for me, and I'm pretty sure for you, you have a seeking spirit, and that desire will lead us to where Creator God wants us to be. I never planned to become a Methodist. My whole life I was in the Pentecostal religion that I grew up in, got married in, raised my family in, lived all my life until my husband died. And then when he passed away, I felt God pulling me somewhere. I didn't know where. I was almost 70. Where am I going to go? I'm not a young person anymore. It's hard to change when you get that old. Had God not led me to Methodist Church, I would not have found this family. So I guess what I'm saying is, stay on that path. I've learned through my life that no matter what's going on around me, no matter things I have no control over, God is right beside me. I feel him there. And I need to let that confusion, frustration go. So thank you for all of that you reminded me. Stop fretting and worrying. You have a community.
All right, go ahead, Evan.
This was good. Your memory made me think about how there's a spirit to things, you know? Like moments in time also have a spirit, and sometimes they linger in a place, you know? And I was thinking about like when you were little and you were going through that, and then that moment you felt alone and you were a little person and you were vulnerable, it lingers in that space, you know? And so, I don't know, I think like growing up, I had a lot of those moments too, you know? And like when you have so many of those moments, you almost learn that like relationship isn't safe. So like you have to like take long times to like calm your nervous system to even be able to like have a genuine conversation with somebody. Not because you don't want to have a genuine or authentic conversation with them, but because the very prospect of like sitting and talking to them is so nerve-wracking that it's just a lot, because it's like not that they're unsafe, it's that like something about everything you've been through has taught you that relationship isn't always safe. And it's not that like you don't see the value in it. Like obviously the value is like unquantifiable. It's the scariness of like acknowledging your vulnerability and the fact that you're human and you're going to read things wrong sometimes. And, you know, I'm traumatized, so I like react a lot, and it's not pretty. And I don't want to subject people to my bullshit, and that's like, a hard truth to like live with sometimes. Because really, in a way, it's like the relationship you have with yourself. It's like the relationship you have with yourself is very foundational for the relationships that you're able to build with other people. And so sometimes you're seen as being arrogant, or you're seen as being like not hospitable, when truthfully you're just trying to regulate and like do the best you can. And that's hard sometimes in different contexts. But what you made me think about was like how the little person inside of us, or like, whatever, just like when we go through things like that and that memory is there, and we have an instance or a circumstance that comes up, it brings back that memory. And sometimes that memory has a physical reaction to it. And so it's like hard to balance all of that sometimes. And I appreciate you understanding that, like, and sharing it in like a way that's like part of story, because that makes it easier to feel safer talking and like, just sharing authentically. And that's like part of being less afraid of like creating safe space in relationship. So thank you.
All right, go ahead, Helen.
Well, I think everyone's already said a lot of it, but I'm always impressed at your vulnerability, at your candor, your willingness to share. I've also been struck with some contrasts here, that the passages that I read were all about the unity of the early church and wanting to be a group, wanting to lift one another up. And I think in one of the comments from Petadaka mentioned that, how we lift each other up. But how often the church instead has been a place of trauma, and even inflicted trauma on its people. And I think it points to me another contrast, that we have a choice. We can knit ourselves together into community, or we can carve each other up, like kind of like that creepy little boy from Toy Story who had the mutant toys, and we can create people like that. But I mean, hopefully that's not the choice I'm hoping everyone's going to pick, but we can also lift each other up. And I think that's what you do here every week with everyone, in sharing your story and listening to ours. And I thank you for all of that.
Yeah, I'll say something too, and thank you, Helen, for sharing that. And there's something called in counseling and psychology attachment theory, um, which basically posits that your first interactions with caregivers, especially your mother, will frame your interactions in the rest of your life. Um, and so if you have a really good, like if your mother is very nurturing and is always there for you, that as it goes, the saying goes, and the research is going this way too, that the more secure of relationships you can build as you become older and as you become an adult. Um, and then if you don't have that secure attachment to your caregiver, especially your mother, it can create, anxious attachments or avoidant attachments, or a combination of the two. And so, yeah, I encourage, we're all on our own journey, but as we go through conversations like this, and as we have these conversations, it helps us in our own individual journeys when we hear other people's stories too.
A little bit here. Well, Yesha, your journey uh, parallels many of the things that I've been through. As I'm getting older here, I think about the different thirds of my life here. First, growing up until age 30, and then 30 to 60, and now 60 plus now. It's I've I've come across people of love and people of hate. And they are just, they're there. Uh, I could be in whatever job I was in. I could be in a job and I could just tell the people that had something against my skin color, my being native, and then there are others that just balanced it off more positive, that they are very accepting. And I've grown through all these years of, and this trauma has affected me and to where I have to find ways to deal with it. And there has been good and there has been some really, really bads in my life. And it's just plugging away and trusting God that this'll, it's, it's just going to continue to be part of my life. And I think all of us, or many of us, have all been, being native has just made us a different, a different project for God to work on us, because we all have some trauma by the world that's been created of the white encroachment into our worlds, and it's changed us. And I always think of how my life would be if I didn't have to deal with the white hate that I had in my world, and how much better it would have been. And but I've overcome that to be as loving as God can, and can force me to be loving. Sometimes I don't want to, but I found a way to overcome many of the things that have really pressured me to be and not give up. And then as I continue, and I think when I give space at Good Medicine Way for people to feel safe to share those things in our lives, that we all find a good comfort from each other to keep growing. And the church never did this for me. You know, we could never open up after a sermon and just say, "Hey, bro, I'm hurting and I need some love." And the church just never had that. Never had that for me. And it wasn't until I tried to do something different over the last 35 years now that it's made the difference in my world, and in many folks like yourselves too, where you found a place of love and acceptance. So I wanted to share that. Eshe, you thank you for your openness and sharing with us. That's not the last word. That's just some of my words. Maybe someday I'll open up and share my story. This was just a tidbit that I cracked open here, but God's been faithful.
Hey, one thing I'd interested to hear your perspective on, Eshe, is we mentioned a little bit the upheaval that a lot of communities are beginning to go through now, and because of things that are happening with the government, a lot of people who thought they were in stable situations are suddenly finding themselves in very vulnerable situations. And I don't know, I guess like stemming from some of your experiences with Standing Rock and some of the other work that you've done with activism and things like that. Like in your view, like how do we really come together as a community and uphold each other as we're, finding so many of our brothers and sisters in very scary places for them, and like how do you navigate all that? Like, what's your perspective on that?
I'm in communication with someone. I won't give the name, but he has been trying to uh influence tribal nations, especially his tribal nation that he belongs to accept cryptocurrency instead of US currency, because a lot of tribal nations who are federally recognized receive, as we saw, we're seeing with Haskell and Sippy, they receive federal grants. And when that's cut, there's nothing. Um, and while the US government does have treaty obligations, the US government is the US government. Um, so I think this is what I talked to that person about as well. Our strength is going to be and I don't know what the future holds, but the signs are not looking good, and it's with every different administration there's a trajectory that it pushes us more towards, you know. Um every single one goes off of the patterns of the past one to a certain extent. Um and so I think connecting to the land is going to be really important for us in these times. You know, being in community in that way, community gardening, doing that and building community around the land and our work with the land. Um, so whatever you all can do in that area, I know you'll have probably a lot of opportunities there. Just however we can do that wherever we are, if it's small or big, find people who are doing it already, get together with them. Um, and a lot of people who are already doing that work don't necessarily identify as followers of Jesus, but that can also be a way of saying, hey, like these people are different, they call themselves can also be a way of growing relationships with different people too. So I think that's going to be our strength is connecting with the earth as much as we can these times, because the system ain't for us. I mean, it's you know, it's I don't know. That's kind of like you were saying about activism. We see a lot of things. You see, regardless of the administration, it's all a lot of it is it's kind of like churchianity. It's a lot of pretending, a lot of showing face, and looking good on screen, but what's going on behind the scenes. So I don't know. I know, you know, I was kind of brought up knowing these things, that and understanding that these things were going to happen with church and state, kind of coming back together. Um, but now seeing it in front of our eyes, it's a different reality than, especially when I was brought up with it, it was kind of like a certain picture of how that was going to happen. But seeing it now, it's like, okay, this is seeing a lot of people that I grew up with who talked about it. Now they're going on that side of things, and it's like, oh, where are you? Like, you're the one who taught. So it's yeah, it's a time, but it's it's a time Creator said will get us through. Community is going to be essential though for us, and not just human community, but community with all of creation. So
Cool. Thanks for that. Go ahead, Helen.
Okay, I'm back for round two here. You brought up the merging of church and state, and I thought, yeah, but it's like that mutant church that's like the worst possible church.
Yeah.
It's got some of the worst quality, like what you were talking about, the churchiology, where it's gotten away from Christianity and it's
yeah.
got all the negative stuff. I've been watching that, and I know I was in disbelief when the Department of Education was dissolved. Like, what? Um, Lots of that. So basically, all I was going to say is I feel for you, and I think, yeah, more than ever, we have to unite together, because we can't depend on our government or the church that is representing there to do it for us.
Yeah. And it's hard because you see it's so you know, there's a lot of people who call themselves followers of Jesus who want power. You know, they want that power. And it's crazy to see how it's merging with white supremacy. You know, like that's something that, you know, we knew was at the core of things, but to see it kind of merging with that church and state, you know, with the attacks on DEI and
Yeah, it's gone from latent to blatant.
yeah.
As Lin-Manuel Miranda coined that. But yeah.
Yep. And it's to me it echoes of the dark ages, you know, just the power and the money behind it all. You know, you got these billionaires behind it all too. So it's just a repeat, you know, but you know, I ask myself, you know, what did the ones who were following the way do in those times? You know, they made it, you know, and a lot of times they were connecting to the land, the ones who made it, you know, they distanced themselves from it and grouped together and you know, I don't want to sound too doom and gloom because you know we're not there yet, but I think it's 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 not just something that we do because of this circumstances. It's something that we need to do because we're human beings. You know, it's something that is good for us to do anyways. You know, and the more we do it, the less reliant we are on the system, the better. You know, especially for the times ahead. So that's kind of what I see.
Right. Well, I want to thank everyone for being on tonight. Some heavy stuff, but you give us encouragement, Eshe, for your growth from this, and look forward to you growing even more as you know become the man that you're going to become. So love that. Love you all. Let's move on to our closing song, and then looks like we're going to have Joe Lopez from South LA be sharing our closing send off.
Geronimo.
Joe.
Walking humbleness before Creator, and He will lift you up. Hey, ah, way, ah, oh. A bruised stone, He will not break. Yes, He will lift you up. Hey, ah, way, ah, oh. Way, ah, eh, oh. Eh, ah, eh, oh. Eh, ah, eh, ah, ah, eh, ah, ah. Way, ah, eh, ah, ah, eh, ah, ah. Way, ah, way, oh. Walk in humbleness before Creator, and He will lift you up. Hey, ah, way, ah, oh. A smoldering fire He will not put out. Yes, He will build you up. Hey, ah, way, ah, oh. Way, ah, eh, oh. Eh, ah, eh, oh. Eh, ah, eh, ah, ah, eh, ah, ah. Way, ah, eh, ah, ah, eh, ah, ah. Way, ah, way, oh.
Hey, all right, all right. Thank you. Thank you for that. Hey, that was a great song for this. Thank you, brother, for your sharing tonight. And we do hope to hear back from you soon. Hey, we'll see you in your usual role soon. Hey, but anyway, thank you, brother, thank you for that. Okay, now we'll be calling on Joe Ronimo, Joe Lopez, to do our send off blessing. Sorry, thank you, Uncle, for also closing out earlier. But yeah, all right,
Yeah.
here we go.
Um, yeah, thanks, Ish. Good stuff. I guess the two things. Um, a while ago, my wife gets credit for this one. So we were going through a rough spot, like in ministry, and so we came up with this concept of the giving pinata. So you get, pinata, you hit it and candy comes out. So um kind of in that, in our whatever we're up to these days, like what when we get hit, what's coming out, and then choosing I don't know, to give out candy or whatever you want to take from that. And then the other words I had were from a couple weeks ago, and I've just been playing with this idea of um, or a concept of like, what does it look like to fall in love with doing good? Um, and so, in light of and in response to everything that's going on, um, that would be my encouragement. You know, fall in love with doing good. Take care of yourself. Choose your battles. Don't get too tired. Drink some water. Eat some good food. Um, you know, today is today, and tomorrow will be tomorrow. So I'm blessed to be here, and those are my prayers and my words for us tonight, I guess. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everyone, for being on tonight. Thank you for our guests who came in. And if everybody hasn't seen them yet, they're sitting over here. There they are. There they are. Guys from Canada and from Ohio. Yep, so they're visiting us. Uh, Gave us a call earlier, said they were going to be here. Also got a cute call from a guy from North Carolina. He says, I told him, we got this young guy going to speak to us tonight. And he goes, oh yeah, Eshe's going to be on. And, he's like 80 years old, and he's been following us on YouTube. And he knew you right off the bat. He's, oh yeah, yes, I can't wait to hear him. So
He's like, yeah, that's my uncle.
yeah, up there, just north of you there. All right, everyone. I love you. We'll see you next week. We're going to be having Dennis from South Bend, Indiana, at Bethel University. There, he's going to be our speaker on, and that's the university I went and spoke with this last fall here, and they wanted to hear truth, and they told me don't hold back. Tell them about what was going on with their school. They were struggling with their school being on stolen land from the Potawatomis, and so we really had some deep conversations. So he's going to be talking with us and sharing what has transpired from that with the relationship with the Potawatomis in the area. So look, yeah. Oh wow. Oh, what's his name? Engerberg? Engbrick? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I talked with the whole faculty, their president, and right on down. In a room they put. They invited me to come, and they says we got a problem with our hearts. And the illustration I gave is if somebody picture a radio. A guy stole a radio and didn't want it anymore, and he sold it to another person, and that person got tired of it a couple of years and then sold it to Bethel University, it's still stolen property, no matter how you look at it, even though you're all culpable in stolen property. And they were having a conscience problem there. And so they asked me to tell the truth about what's going on here. And from that, they've made some really good choices and changes and relationships with the Potawatomi in the area. So some good things. So that'll be next week.
Keep us informed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening, and Lord uses me in some different ways to help, help our people, help create, unity between everyone, and people are struggling with their conscience now after, several hundred years of living on my land. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I could be the billionaire making all the decisions here, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, we got a
How is
lot of.
it? I'm sorry. I was gonna say, how was it from what is that movie called again? Killers of the Flower Moon. He was like, "Whose
Yeah,
land is this?" You're like,
hey,
"My land." Eh?
yeah. It's really all native land. It's just been stolen. All right, everyone. Let's don't go down that path right now. We'll save it for next week. Yeah. All right, everyone. Love you all. See you later. Take care now. Bye bye.
Okay, we'll see y'all later. Bye.
All
Thank
right.
you,
Good night.
Joe. Thank you.